Chapter 21. The pale greenhouse looked exactly the way Martine remembered it. The rusting Coca-Cola sign was propped up against one wall. The lawn was even more threadbare, and the chickens were still scratching hopefully on the porch in the sunshine. It was mid-April, and Martine found it hard to believe that barely 3 months had passed since she'd climbed off the plane at Cape Town Airport. It seemed like forever. She remembered Grace's words on the first day. The gift can be a blessing or a curse. Make your decisions wisely. The sick feeling returned to Martine's stomach. Her decisions might have cost Jimmy his life. A small boy materialized at the front door. "I'd like a word with the crazy old woman," said Gwen Thomas. "Is she home?" "Who you be calling crazy?" purged Grace, looming up from behind the boy. "There's only one crazy old woman around these parts, and that's you, Gwen Thomas." She reached out a massive hand and stroked Martine's hair, giving no indication that she'd only seen her recently. "Child, looks like you could use some of Grace's good food. Now, what have you been feeding her?" "We haven't come here to be insulted," Martine's grandmother said primly. "We need your help." "Uh-huh," said Grace, putting her hands on her hips. "I be listening." "Grace, I know we've had our differences," Gwen Thomas said. "I don't blame you if you never want to speak to me again. But if you ever care for me at all, you'll help Martine. She's lost something she loves, and you may be the only person in the world who can help her get it back." Grace smiled, revealing a lot of pink gum and very few teeth. "Old woman," she said, "why didn't you just say so?" Without ceremony, she turned and walked back into the house. Martine and her grandmother followed the swish of Grace's dresses, a righteous blend of indigo, sunshine yellow, and burnt honey patterned off the African prints. She led them to the living room, which smelled familiarly of chopped wood, mealie meal, and a million cooking fires. The out-of-date island calendar was still on the wall, and the same grass mat was on the floor. A vase full of peacock feathers had been added to a teak table. Grace went into the kitchen and reappeared with 2 steaming plates of mealie meal porridge. "I'll give you a recipe for that, too." Drenched it with buttermilk, cinnamon, and cane sugar. Martine was queasy and had not been keen on eating, but Grace stifled her protests and said, with a flat, "You're all bones." Afterwards, Martine was glad she had. The porridge was fantastic. It poured into her veins like molten lava, warming her bones and clearing her head. When she was finished, Martine told Grace what had happened to Jimmy, giving her as much detail as she could about the poacher's chase. "One question, child," Grace said when she was finished. "Did you ever see the face in any of those hunters?" Martine glanced uneasily at her grandmother. "Go on," urged Gwen Thomas. "Well, I didn't see either of their faces, but I did think somebody at Zimbabwe might have been involved." "Think it could be," Martine faltered. She didn't want to make her grandmother angry again. "It could be Alex," she said at last. "No," cried her grandmother. "Your grandfather trusted Alex with his life. I won't have you be saying—" "Enough," commanded Grace. "The child has spoken. Now we must all listen for answers." She heaved herself off the chair and drew the curtains. The room was plunged into blackness. A match flared, and Grace placed a candle on the table. She sat down on the grass mat with a grunt. Her broad face and deep-set eyes glittered eerily. Out of her blouse she produced a very small leather pouch, which she proceeded to empty out on the ground in front of her. As far as Martine can tell, it contained a collection of small bones, a porcupine quill, a guinea fowl feather, and a couple of elephant hairs. Grace closed her eyes and began to chant. Nothing happened for several minutes, and then a low, rhythmic pounding began to emanate from Grace's chest. It was like the sound of a distant drum. Before Martine's startled eyes, a thin spiral of blue smoke rose from the objects off the floor. It flattened out, and blurred images began to flash across it, too fast for her to take in. There were mountains and men in loincloths and headdresses, great herds of animals and bloody battles, and once she thought she saw a giraffe, but it was gone before she could be for sure. Grace's eyes rolled back in her head. "Water," she moaned. "I see blue water, and boats that go up to the sky. The men are going far. They'll be hungry for the power. The white giraffe is there, but not for much longer. I see much pain, much pain, much pain." "Stop!" shouted Gwen Thomas. The smoke disappeared. Grace's eyes swam back into her head. She was shaking, and she looked up at Martine. "Go now, child, soon it'll be too late." "But where?" cried Martine. "Where will they have taken him?" "Boats that go up to the sky can only be one thing, the dockyards at Cape Town," interrupted her grandmother. "Hurry, Martine. I think they're taking him abroad."